Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 10-Minute Bible Lesson. We appreciate you joining us today. You know, if you've been tuning in, we've been doing lessons on Jesus's parables. And I started out, I think I told you that we started out, we thought we were just going to have a few parables, and we've ended up with a bunch of them. We've got another one today. Now, the one next week, I'm concerned about because I'm not sure I understand it. But that's going to be for next time. But today we've got one I think you're going to be interested in, because this one today is about Jesus coming back to earth again. And it's found in Mark chapter 13. And I want to give you just a little bit of information, a little point here, that Mark 13, Matthew 24, and Luke 21, all three of those chapters in those different Gospels have to do with Jesus coming back again. And it also has to do with the destruction of the temple and Jerusalem by the Romans that took place in 70 AD. But so Jesus, he told his disciples that he was going to be coming back to earth a second time. And so let's go ahead and look. This is in Mark chapter 13. We're going to begin in verses 32 and 33. So here's what it says. It says, "But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father." And then he says, "Take heed, watch and pray, for you do not know when the time is." So there's a set day, there's a set hour, and there's a set time for this great event. And when I say great event, I'm actually understating it, because this is one of the greatest events in the history of all of the earth. That is to say, Jesus coming back. And I'm sure it's going to happen. And another thing that's great about it, it's a great secret as to when it's going to happen. Yeah. In fact, it's already been 2,000 years, and I don't know if you can hear it or not, but the clock's ticking and it's winding down. So it's a great secret, and nobody knows. Not even the TV preachers, not even preachers in church, right? Not even Bible scholars, not even the angels, even Jesus. Only the Father knows. And Jesus said this. He said for us to take heed to this fact and to watch and pray and to be ready. Well, let's go ahead and read the next verse. That's verse 34. And this is the beginning of the parable. Let's see what it says. So in Mark 13:34, it says, "It is like a man going to a far country, who left his house and gave authority to his servants, and to each his work, and commanded the doorkeeper to watch." Now this parable is called the parable of the householder. So here in this passage, Jesus describes the event in this parable. In fact, a parable, I think I've mentioned several times, an earthly story with a heavenly meaning. And so I believe that this man in the parable that's going to a far country is Jesus. And I believe the household that he's left is the church. And I actually believe that the servants in the household are the particular members in the church. So he left us in charge, and in a sense he did, and he gave us authority. In fact, he not only left us in charge and gave us authority, but he gave us each a responsibility. And I think that's important to know. Each one of us has a work to do. And I notice that in this parable, he calls us his servants, and we are his master. So it makes sense to me that if we are his servants, then we're supposed to be serving. So I think that's really important. And let me just give you a little bit of encouragement here. If you are a believer in Jesus, let me just encourage you to work and serve the Lord. If you're not working and serving for the Lord, listen, you need to be. So he also, in this verse, it says that he commanded the doorkeeper to watch. Now, I'm not real sure who the doorkeeper is. I'm trying to figure out who that is. Is the doorkeeper the preachers or the ministers of churches? I don't know. But whoever the doorkeeper is, they're supposed to watch. So let's go ahead and read the next verse. That's verse 35 in Mark chapter 13. Watch therefore, Jesus says, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming, in the evening, at midnight, or at the crowing of the rooster, or in the morning. So the key word here is, or the key thought here is to be watchful. What does that involve when it says we're watchful? I mean, you don't go out and just look at the sky and you stare all day and all night up in the sky. I don't think so. I think it means this, having our lives in good spiritual condition. Hey, listen, we need to be prayed up. We need to attend church. We need to read the Bible. We need to witness. We need to give. We need to serve. We need to be spiritually in good condition, I think. And not only that, we can't be slack in our relationship with God. And we can't be distracted. It's easy to be distracted in this world. There's so many things out there to get our attention, right? So we need to stay focused and not get distracted by the things that are in this world. Now, the opposite of being watchful would be what? It would be being sleeping. So we're, in some ways, we're supposed to be on spiritual guard duty. Now, when I was in the service, I had to pull guard duty. And listen, one thing you did not want to do, you didn't want to get caught sleeping on guard duty. If you did that, you could be punished. You could get what they call in Article 15. You might even get something worse than that. So listen, we have to be awake and we have to be alert and watchful for Jesus' return and to be about his business. Well, let's look at the last two verses of this parable. In Mark 13, verses 36 and 37, Jesus says this. He says, here's why he says it's important for us to be watchful. Lest coming suddenly, he find you sleeping, and what I say to you, I say to all, watch. So I love this. So Jesus' return, we're told about his return will be something that happens suddenly. That is to say, it will be unexpectedly. And in verse 35, it says that it could be in the evening. It could be in a time when we're all gathered around in the evening in the living room watching TV or doing something else. And all of a sudden, we hear this sound of the trumpet and the loud voice of the archangel. It could be that time. And it also could be this. It could be a time at midnight. It could be in bed. We could be in bed between the sheets with the covers up over us, and all of a sudden we're awakened by the loud trumpet. It could be that time. Or listen, it could be when the sun comes up. We get up in the morning, we're not quite awake, we're trying to get awake, the sun's coming up. It could be that time. In fact, it could be at the breakfast time when we're at the table eating our cereal. All of a sudden we hear the noise and Jesus suddenly comes back. And so I think that it's certainly important for us to be aware and to be watchful and not to be asleep spiritually. Isn't this a great parable? I mean, it's a challenge to us. It should be something to spur us on and to help us to be spiritually alert and awake. I love this parable. Listen, we thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you have a good week and join us next time.